Everybody, how's it going? A little bit late for today. It's 11:40 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm Alan Galang, neurolinguistic programming practitioner and clinical hypnosis, here to drop a quick bite or a quick tip for you today. A little bite of knowledge on helping each and every single one of you improve your negative emotions and get better control over the way you feel, especially when those moments come where it's hard to control those negative emotions. A quick background on me, of course. I've been studying NLP since 2005, a student since 2005 to 2017, became a practitioner, an active practitioner in 2017 to now 2024. And every year I help an average of 127 to 150 different cases of people who suffered from anxiety, from anger, depression, guilt, shame, from all sorts of different backgrounds in their life. With an 87% success rate on average, I've been able to help people get back on track to living a life that they feel happy about, proud of, building and rebuilding relationships with their friends, their family, their kids, their mom, dad, their loved ones, and really give them a chance at living life to their fullest. That's something I've gotten really good at doing, and that's why I'm here to share with you today. So today, in order to deep dive a little bit into this idea of, well, how do we control our emotions better, more accurately, more efficiently, so it doesn't take years to be able to learn something and hope that we get better at living what we call a quality life. The question usually is, well, how do we do that faster? And I've touched on this a few times before, but I'm going to deep dive into it a little bit further today. And that concept today is learning how we can use a technology like NLP to help improve something that we call our identity. Our identity. So what exactly is an identity, and why is that important? An identity is something that we believe to be true about ourselves in terms of answering the question, who are you? Who are you? And the reason why it's important to know your identity or know who you believe you are is because our brains are wired up to actively respond, determine, and look at life based on the lens that we perceive ourselves as. So for example, if someone believes that they are a commander, somebody who takes charge, somebody who should call the shots, somebody who should be a ruler in their life, well, chances are is they'll probably find jobs that will give them that kind of identity, or they'll grow into that kind of job. They'll probably pick friends and surround themselves with people who also listen to what they have to say, because their brain says, well, I should be the one to call the shots, right? Now, whether that works in their favor or not is a different subject. But in terms of just how their brain operates, they may look for people who want to listen and take their advice. They also might not agree with other people who want to give them advice, even if it's good for them, simply because their habit is, well, you don't tell me what to do. I'm always telling other people what to do, right? Now, another example of that might be someone who likes to go and support other people. So they might have the identity of, well, I don't like to lead, but I love to be a supportive person. So they might pick, for example, a partner who usually calls the shots, makes the decisions. And they, the supportive mindset, might say something like, hey, you know what? If that's what you think is great, cool, let's do it. You like that restaurant? Let's go eat there. You want to spend the extra time working and you can't come home earlier than expected? Then you know what? That's fine. You think this color looks better on me than this other color? Okay, I'll go with it. Like, that's someone who has a supportive personality type or mindset. Now, pulling up my notes here, let me dive a little bit further. The identity shift technique, which is what we're really talking about today, learning to shift our identity during moments where we need it, where we need something to come out of us that's better than what we've had before. The identity shift technique in neurolinguistic programming, or NLP, helps people change how they see themselves, which in turn changes how they feel, how they act, etc. Imagine if you're always seeing yourself as someone who's shy. This belief about your identity can make you feel nervous and scared in social situations. The identity shift technique also helps you change the belief. So instead of thinking, I'm shy, you might start to see yourself as, I'm confident, or I'm patient, or I'm very caring. When you change the way you see yourself, the feelings and actions follow. You might start to feel more relaxed and at ease when talking to other people. This technique works because our brains like to match what we believe about ourselves with how we act. So if you believe that you're confident, your brain will help you act that way. Over time, this new identity becomes your reality. And those negative emotions, like fear or anger or nervousness, they tend to still be there, but they lose their power. A famous celebrity who used NLP to improve their identity was Tony Robbins, or is Tony Robbins. He's one of the most well-known motivational speakers and life coaches in the world. Tony used NLP to shift his identity from someone who struggled with his emotions and self-doubt to someone who was confident and purely driven. This shift helped him become the success in his field and inspired millions of other people around the world to go and become their best confident selves as well. Another example of this is Oprah Winfrey, who has also talked about using techniques similar to NLP to change her mindset to build a successful career. So those are some popular or famous examples. I want to close off this talk today by asking you, who's someone in your life who you've seen make a radical change? Someone who 10, 20, 30 years ago, you saw them as one person. And these days, or if you see them on social media, or if you get a chance to chat with them even a little bit or a lot, you might notice that they've changed. Some for the better, some for the worst. Regardless as to whether their change was positive or negative, if you notice that who they are is different from who they used to be, then recognize that number one, they had to make a decision, either consciously or subconsciously, to make a shift in who they believe they are. Which number two means that they had to shift their identity, because identity always supports the action. Sometimes you can force the action to support the identity. That's when you're making a shift. But a lot of people that just become someone else or something else, a lot of times they choose an identity and then the actions tend to follow. We see that a lot when someone is a regular 9-to-5 employee, for example, and all of a sudden they get promoted to being a manager. Oftentimes overnight, those people just take on a new self-identity, which causes them to act differently when they're in the workplace. Number three, once we've changed that identity, which triggered a different set of habits, we then want to ask ourselves, are these the habits that we want to utilize? Because if they are, then great. If they're not, then it might be time to make adjustments on that identity. So the actions, the habits, the reactions, the way that our emotions drive us can follow suit. In closing, I'd want to ask you, who do you believe you are? Not like in a challenging way, like who are you? I mean in the sense like, who do you believe you are at your core? So yes, you might be a mom, a dad, you might be a 9-to-5 worker, you might be a shift worker, you might be an entrepreneur, own your own business, you might be at the verge of homelessness, you might be still living with your parents, I don't know. But outside of all the external things, when you look at the core of who you are, who are you? How would you describe that? If you want to make a shift in the way you feel, especially during hard situations, tough times, like getting angry, like losing your cool, like feeling depressed. During those moments, a certain identity in us comes out. And it's really, really important for us to ask ourselves, who do we believe we are at our core? Now, if we like who we believe we are, keep it. But if there's parts of us that we don't like, I would challenge, I would implore you to really decide to make a shift in who your identity is. Growing up, we kind of were molded into our identity. Very few of us were actually able to choose it. But considering, and I'm assuming, that everyone in this group, or the majority, are either young adults or grown adults, full adults. At the end of the day, because we're adults, we now have the power to choose. So if you're looking for a way to choose how to mold your identity into something powerful, unique, that gives you better self-control, better self-belief, better self-confidence, better self-love, then ask yourself, what's the first step that you can take? What is the first step you can take to make that happen? And if you know what that is, jot it down, make a note, share it here in the comment section. But if you are unsure and you are looking for a way, feel free to message. Let me know or let Helen know. And one of us will be more than happy to do a demonstration here with you on how that shift can happen literally in minutes. And something that doesn't, it's not like a placebo where it just feels good in the moment. And then when the call is over or the moment's over, and then you go back to your normal self. No. I mean, once we help you make that shift stays. It stays. It's there. It's who you are, the newer version of you. And you know that becomes true, especially during the times where you're in critical situations. And all of a sudden, those times that make you feel angry or depressed or full of anxiety or depression or a mix of all the above, all of a sudden, when you notice that those negative emotions don't control you so much anymore, and it happens, like it stays that way every time you're in that pressure situation, that's when you know that this new identity shift in you has not only happened, but it's allowed you to evolve. That's something that many of us have had a chance to experience. And Helen and I, our goal is always to help you feel that for yourself too. That's it for today. Keeping it nice and short since Helen's not here. Forgot to mention in the beginning, Helen is away, obviously. She's at a family fair event, or a family event, one she could not get out of. So she asked me to run the show for us. So hopefully that was helpful for you. Let us know if you have any questions. We appreciate you watching always. Until the next one, next video, have yourself a great morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching. We appreciate your attention and for being here.